Hello everyone, welcome to this ICU video virtual roundtable. My name is Connor Toffan. I'm joined today by my friend from high school, Cassie Matlock. We both come from Archbishop O'Leary. Right now she's playing at the University of West Alabama. In the past though, she's also played for Lindsey Wilson College in Kentucky, as well as the junior Canadian national team. So Cassie, how's it going today?
It's good, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good. So how are you holding up during this quarantine?
It's been pretty difficult, just, a lot of adjustments. I'm sure everybody's trying to make themselves, but, being home with my family has been really good, and having that support has really helped.
So this was your first year at the University of West Alabama. Tell me about the current situation going on there.
So I transferred in mid-year. So I came in the for the spring semester and basically just jumped right in. I had a month to get ready for season, and then we just kicked it right off. But we didn't really get much steam before COVID kind of happened and, threw us off a little bit. But so I'm back home now. I've been home for a couple months now, and hopefully I'll be able to go back as soon as possible. But season's over. We're just getting ready for next year and trying to be prepared for that.
So this spring season has been canceled. Have they said anything to you about the fall?
So it's all still kind of up in the air right now. I know that recently there have been a lot of big schools saying that their fall classes are going to be online as well. I think we received an email a couple days ago that said we might be, or that they were planning on doing all of our fall classes in person still. So they haven't made any decisions that way yet. But hopefully we'll be able to be back. I'm really excited to be back in Livingston and back with my team.
No doubt. Now, obviously you're at home, you're separated from the rest of your team. It is important to stay in good softball shape. How have you been able to manage that?
So this is difficult. Of course, everybody has a little hard time, I think, staying motivated when you don't have any plans, you don't have anywhere to go, and everything's closed, all the gyms are closed, so everything kind of has to be a little modified. Our strength and conditioning coach has been sending out 2-week plans for us to do a lot of like body weight workouts and stuff like that. So I've been trying to stay on top of those and just stay active in general, just to stay healthy.
So you said you have to improvise a little bit. Now I saw a video on your Instagram the other day. You were hitting off of a boot. Can you tell me about that?
So I contacted one of my old coaches to get some equipment to use, like a net and a tee and some balls to borrow just while, we're all kind of stuck. And so he dropped off the stuff and I went to go set it all up, and I realized that he didn't drop me off a tee. So I kind of got a little creative, and I set up a Canadian Tire bucket, put it upside down, and put a rubber boot on top, and it managed to work pretty well as a tee, surprisingly. But my coach is going to be bringing by a tee eventually, so that'll be good.
Okay, good. Yeah, a tee kind of needed for training when you're working on your swing to hit off of a tee. Now, is the boot and the bucket something you've used in the past, or is this something you've just kind of invented on your own? Have you seen it anywhere? Was this your idea?
I have never seen it before, and there has been so many times in the past where I didn't have a tee and I tried so many different things and it never worked out, or something got broken, or and so this was the first time really I kind of, I was walking back in to my house from my garage, and I saw all of our rubber boots sitting there, and I was like, okay, well, tees are made of rubber, and if I hit this boot, it's probably not going to be the end of the world because it's an old rubber boot. So it just worked out.
Yeah, for sure. I've taken plenty of bad swings in the past, breaking tees all on my own. I don't think I ever would have thought to use a rubber boot, but also as well on your social medias, you've been posting a daily in and out. People seem to love it. Tell me a little bit about how that came to be.
So one of my good friends, his name is Piero, they went on a vacation just before COVID hit, and when they came back, they all had to self-quarantine. And so one of the things he did to kind of keep his spirits high and keep everybody else's spirits high as he recorded himself taking a step outside for about 3 seconds every day and then going directly back inside. And so I just thought it was hilarious. And so I kind of picked it up, and a lot of people really seem to enjoy it and find it pretty funny.
For sure. So obviously it seems like you're staying pretty positive through the quarantine. Have you talked to any of your teammates? How are they holding up?
Yeah, I've stayed pretty positive. It's been really nice to be around my family. Normally we're actually spread out pretty much all over the continent. My dad works out in Manitoba, and my mom stays here in Edmonton with my brother, and my sister lives in Edmonton as well, but I'm down in the States. So we're usually all pretty split up. But as for my teammates, we've been keeping in contact pretty good. I know they've had a little bit of struggles down there. A couple of my teammates, family members, have actually got COVID. I know that most of them have, as far as I know, recovered, but it's been a little hard just, being away from everyone. But, we all keep in contact pretty good. We have a team group chat, and everybody, kind of sends prayers and is thinking about each other, and there to support each other when we need it.
For sure. So you played 2 years at Lindsey Wilson College. Just this past year, you transferred into the University of West Alabama. So you kind of had half of a year. You had not even half of a year, because you transferred after Christmas. So you were just starting to build this chemistry with your new team, and then it all got completely kiboshed with this quarantine. I don't want to say kiboshed, but that in-person relationships, they're hard to replicate and build over the phone. So how has it affected that?
It's been difficult. I had a little bit of a hard time, adjusting when I showed up to begin with. I showed up a couple days later than, they had like the medical checkups and stuff like that you had to complete in order to actually participate in any sports. So all of my team, when I first showed up for the first day of spring training, I guess you could say, they were practicing and I had to sit out. So it's kind of hard to, make those connections to begin with. But, with all of this craziness going on, we kind of had something that, connected us all and something that we were all going through together. Our team hadn't been doing that well. Our games and our record wasn't as good as we had wanted it to. So it was kind of almost a little bit of a blessing in disguise, COVID coming along and, cutting it short. It'll be good going into next year, having this reset and being able to say, okay, we don't want our season to go the way it did last year. And we'd really like to improve on that. And I think that, this time away, this time to be with our families and reset a little bit is going to be good. And having this connection is going to be great, going into the next year for our season.
So you mentioned that you are spending time with your family around Easter at the time for the first time in a few years. Has there been anything you've learned throughout the quarantine that otherwise you would have never picked up?
I don't think I have any really like new talents or anything. I've been, I know a couple of my friends are trying to learn like how to do a handstand or, how to juggle or something like that. But I think for me, it's been really good just to kind of take a step back and really relax, after I got all my schoolwork done. It was such a hectic year to begin with. Like I said, I had a hard time adjusting. So it's just, it's been really good just to, take a step back, spend time with my family. I mean, we watch a lot of TV, we play a lot of cards, but it's just been good to relax.
For sure. Myself, I've learned to kind of cook a little bit. Sometimes it goes well. Sometimes it ends up like yesterday where I burn a whole bowl of soup, a whole pot of soup. Yeah, didn't even know that could happen with that kind. So I do want to also mention the eligibility question. So in the NCAA, I was supposed to go to March Madness this year. So I was reading that these players that have lost their March Madness years now can actually go back for a 5th year. Is that something that they've put in the conferences you're playing with?
I think it's actually pretty wide across the NCAA that all spring sports are going to get 1 year of eligibility back. And that includes people who aren't seniors. So I know that we had a couple seniors who are going to be trying to come back, and there are a couple who, aren't going to be able to. But me personally, instead of being able to, this coming up would be my senior year technically. It'll still be my senior year, but I guess I'll get another year and it'll be, like my super senior year. So just to, I'll have, I guess, 2 more years after this to keep playing.
For sure. And tell me why some of your teammates wouldn't be able to go back. So you're talking about going back for your 5th year. Other people won't be able to use that year. Why would that be?
So, it's all kind of a personal thing. It varies from person to person, but some of the reasons that I've heard, I know some friends that, they were already set to graduate. They've already done all the classes that they need to. They don't really have any room to take any more classes. And then on top of that, you still have to pay for another year. So some of the girls can't afford to do that. Or just, there are also girls who have, they have, internships lined up or jobs lined up for them already after school. So it's just like their plans after school didn't really work for them playing another year.
So I'm not sure how much is known about this right now, but obviously you are playing down in the States. There's a whole situation with the Canada-US border right now because of COVID-19. How many of your teammates are Canadian? And if this border stays shut down going into the fall, how would that affect your team?
So I'm actually the only Canadian, but I do know there are a bunch of other, students, international students at my school. I know that there's a girl from Toronto that plays soccer at my school. So one of the big problems that we might be facing is that they might still have the travel ban going on. So if that is going on, then we won't be able to get insured by Canadian companies. So travel insurance, that kind of stuff, I won't be able to get that. So if I'm not able to get insurance, I may not be able to play. We've been kind of looking into maybe seeing whether we can get insured by an American company. My mom was kind of talking to her eye doctor who has a couple kids going to school in the States, and she said that they were staying down there right now. But I think the one difference with that is their dad is Canadian, or sorry, not Canadian, American. So they might be American citizens to begin with, but it's all kind of up in the air, and we're trying to make something work. I really would like to go back down, but I'm going to be following the protocols that Canada puts out for us, and hopefully that won't even be a problem when I have to go.
For sure. It is obviously tough times for anyone in the world pretty much right now, especially if you are relying on that border for a lot of your income or a lot of your enjoyment in life. You have maintained a strong connection back to Canada throughout your whole college career. How's your support system been coming here from Edmonton?
I have so many great coaches here, and I've played with so many people in and around Alberta. So it's been, that's how I got to the States is those people. And so, they've been checking in with me. I've always had those great coaches who, really want me to succeed. So, I'm so proud of the fact that I am from Alberta, and I love to keep those connections here.
And prior to the quarantine, in terms of the last 2.5 years, there are a lot of differences in baseball between baseball in Canada and the States. Notably, I've had a lot of friends texting me saying that when they went down to the States, they went from being like a top of the line player to just another average guy. And that was one of the bigger differences. So rather than facing a 90-mile-per-hour pitcher once every year, maybe they're facing one once every week, and everyone else doesn't dip below 80. What are some of the differences between the Canada softball and then the US softball that you've experienced?
So kind of like you said, just the sheer amount of people who play the sport in the States is so much bigger. So just in general, you're going to find a lot more competition. So I've found same kind of thing. You're going from being one of the top players. There's not a lot of softball players who come out of Alberta. I know about 4 or 5, even in like Saskatchewan or whatever. The entire country, I know a lot of the players who have gone. So, being one of those top players, then going and, just being another one in a crowd, a small fish in a bigger pond now, is completely different. But, I think for me, it was really good. I really embraced that competition and that challenge, and it worked out really well for me. I think that going from my freshman to my sophomore year, I really improved, and just like getting to, see that different competition made me a better player.
I do also, before we kind of go further into your ties locally here, I do want to go back to your time at Lindsey Wilson College. You spent 2.5 years there, and you did have one teammate that was on the selection roster for the Canada softball team going into the 2020 Olympics. Can you tell me a little bit about her?
So yeah, her name is Callum Pilgrim. She's a great teammate. She actually really helped me, grow as a player. She played center field at Lindsey Wilson. And as we kind of, spent those 2 years together playing, she was heavily involved with Softball Canada. So she was doing a lot of, their workouts and everything else like that. And she was lucky enough, she's such a great player. I wouldn't say lucky, actually, but she, had enough talent to be selected for that roster, the selection roster coming up for Tokyo 2021. And she actually got to play for sorry, what's it called? The Canadian Wild. It's the NPF team, the National Pro Fast Pitch League. So she got the opportunity to kind of be a developmental player and work with that team, the senior national team, a lot, really closely, so that she could, potentially be part of that team in the future.
For sure. And you do have some connections going down into Softball Canada. You mentioned to me that there was actually a lot of women coming out of retirement to play for Tokyo 2020. Obviously, that's now been delayed by a full year. You said they were going to have a pretty strong team. Do you think this will affect that?
There's so many of those women who are so dedicated to, being as best as they could be for their country, and so that they can represent their country in the best way possible. I don't think that this is really going to affect them badly at all. That team, as far as I know, has such a great chemistry, and they're all really dedicated to what they want to accomplish. So I think honestly this year might be good. I know for Callum it may be really good. She might have another year to develop and maybe be a stronger part of that team. So I think overall it's going to be fine for them. They're doing what they need to do. They're staying on top of their stuff, and I look forward to seeing them play. I'm sure that they're going to be really successful.
Now, I don't want to get too far ahead because you do have a couple more years left of college, but is this something that you're looking for in your future?
Yeah, I've always had, big dreams of playing for Canada on the highest level. I played for them, like we mentioned earlier, with the junior national team. I represented Canada at the World Championships, the Junior World Championships, and also at Canada Cup. I got the chance to play for them there. So after that experience, it's kind of been a goal for me and something that I'd really like to strive towards. Looking forwards, I'm not sure that it's going to be exactly, in the cards for me for 2021. But, I'd really like to be, hopefully, the next available Olympics. Hopefully I'll be able to be a part of that team. And unfortunately, after the 2021 Olympics, I think 2024, I guess, is in London, and they've actually taken softball back out of the Olympics. So that wouldn't be the year for me. But the year after that, the Olympics are going to be in LA. And as we know, softball is huge in the States. So I'm pretty confident that they're going to have it back in for those Olympics. And hopefully that's kind of the goal for me is to represent Canada on that stage.
You have represented Canada a little bit in the past. Tell me a little bit more about that.
So that was a great experience. It didn't go exactly how I would have liked, unfortunately. So in my senior year of high school, I actually missed my graduation to go to the tryouts. So they were in BC for a week, and I traveled there, and we were doing a lot of different kind of stuff in those tryouts. And that was after I got selected. There's an open tryout. They have a bunch of open tryouts across country. And so you kind of go, and from there they select, I think it's like 36 girls, I believe, to go to the next tryout. So that next tryout was the week-long one in BC. And so when I went there, like I said, it didn't go as planned. On like the third day, I think it was, I was catching because I caught for years in Alberta. But so I was catching in this tryout, and unfortunately, I got a foul tip to the mask, and I had a concussion. It was a pretty bad concussion. I was out for a couple months actually, and so I was unable to participate in the rest of the Olympics. Sorry, the tryout. So I didn't really have my hopes up that I would even be selected for the team. But I tried everything I possibly could to, be the best teammate I could be. And I actually, the amount of girls, not the amount of girls, all the girls that were there, we all formed this really great bond. And so I wanted to be there for them as best as I could. So, I was making peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and doing everything I could just to be, a part of the group and, help them be successful. And luckily, I guess everybody liked my peanut butter and jelly sandwiches enough because I got selected to be on that team, despite not being able to participate in the tryouts. So that was a really exciting thing for me. And again, unfortunately, I had that concussion for a couple months, so I wasn't really able to prepare the way that I would have liked. But so when I got to, those two competitions, I didn't get to play as much as I would have liked. But, overall, the experience was amazing. And I learned so much from being able to be a part of that team. And I made so many great connections with my teammates. And that's really what I took away from it. Not only being able to learn from all those great coaches and be surrounded by such an elite group of people, but, creating those friendships and memories with my friends was something that I will never regret about that experience.
Yeah, you'll for sure never forget the connections you made and the peanut butter and jelly sandwiches as well. It sounds like you made a whole bunch of those. Now, I will be posting this to my social media, so a lot of baseball people are going to look at this. And you have played in pretty much the equivalent of what the College World Series would be in baseball back at your time at Lindsey Wilson College.
Yeah, that was a great experience. It was the NAIA World Series, and we had such a great team going into that, and it was such a great experience. The highest level of softball that I've been able to play at, besides the World Championships with Junior Team Canada, but it was just great to see all those amazing teams and be able to compete with the best of the best. Was a great experience.
For sure. And that was in your first or second year?
That was my sophomore year.
Okay, so there were a lot of, there was a lot of improvements made from that first year to the second year for you. Just looking at your stats, pretty much not just one stat, but everything rose pretty consistently throughout the board. You were obviously looking to make similar improvements going into year three. That's been stopped. Do you think this kind of slows down your development, or do you think everything's just going to keep going up?
Yeah, I mean, my first year to my second year was a great improvement. I think a lot of it was about me getting comfortable and, getting that experience at the college level. Like we said earlier, it's completely different from anything in Alberta. So it was that experience that really helped me, become a better player and just be comfortable enough to play. So I think, going into my third year, not being as comfortable as I would have liked, I didn't have the results that I would have wanted. Doesn't mean that I played awfully, but, there was a lot of improvements that still needed to be made. And, I didn't really get that chance because the year was cut off so early. But I think that, taking this time off and resetting and still, staying active, staying in shape, I'm looking forward to getting another chance and getting those results that I've been really looking for and still building on the success I had my sophomore year would be great.
Now, I do want to talk about your time at O'Leary, as that's where we went to high school together. So throughout all of this whole softball career, not just the quarantine, but the whole softball career, we did have a couple. Going back to high school, I should start here. We did have a couple teachers pretty similar, one of them being Josh McJanet. I don't think he actually taught you. He did teach one of my classes. He was, what did he even teach me? It was some option about sports that I just took for an easy 3 credits, one of those kind of things. But he was an awesome teacher, and I actually got to interview him this year as we did the finals of the Rochep tournament, also known as the Totem Hoop Classic. It was O'Leary versus Rochep, one of the biggest rivalries. O'Leary ended up winning, so I got to interview one of my former teachers, which was actually super cool. Can you tell me about your relationships that you formed at O'Leary and how much you've kept them?
Yeah, I mean, we both went to O'Leary, of course, and created so many great relationships. And actually, Mr. McJanet, though I didn't get to have him as a teacher or a coach or anything, he was so supportive and always wanted all of his athletes and all of his students to succeed. And I remember when I first signed with Lindsey Wilson, he was going around asking a lot of my classmates and my friends and everything, like who was going where and athletically, and he really wanted to celebrate us as students of O'Leary. So he, put up a little write-up and mentioned, my junior Canadian experience, which at that time was kind of on the horizon. It was coming up, and he really, made me feel so supported and was just such a good influence on a lot of people at that school. And so I was always very thankful that he, took the time to recognize, even though there wasn't softball at O'Leary for, us to play, it was really nice to be recognized because I played so many other sports at the school. And I was really proud to be a Spartan.
For sure. And I mean, we could go on all day about some of the old teachers that we had there and how supportive they've been, like Mr. Bambrick.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Mr. Bambrick was one of my absolute favorite teachers. He was such a good person to rely on and to really, if you ever had any problems or just even wanted to talk about anything, he was such a great teacher to do that. And he really helped, make sense of your future and, help out in those areas. And really kind of cultivate us as people more than just students and more than just actors or, because he was the production performance teacher at O'Leary.
Yeah, he's definitely part of the reason why I'm even doing this interview right now, because he kind of gave me the confidence to go into broadcasting, specifically sports broadcasting. Now, you do like to carry that Spartan spirit with you a little bit down south. You also like to carry your Canadian identity down south. You definitely don't forget your roots, and you actually have your roots kind of embedded into your arm.
Yeah, I have my Canadian tattoo. I just got it recently. If you can see, I don't know, it's got the legislature on there and everything, and Edmonton skyline. But I'm so proud of being an Edmontonian, and I love being Canadian, and that identity I definitely carry with me everywhere, and I try to represent as best as I can, especially having those goals of playing for Canada at the highest level.
Now, I do want to touch on one more thing here before we wrap up. Obviously, this has affected more than just live sports. In fact, you could definitely argue that it's probably affected businesses even more. You worked for a local business called Home Run Sports. Officially, it turned into Kahuniverse Sports later on, but it's commonly known as Home Run. Unfortunately, they had to shut down. They were a pretty big hub for baseball, softball, and slow pitch in Edmonton. They had a store in the front, batting cages in the back. How did you react when you heard of that news?
I was so upset when I heard about that. Home Run Sports had become, such a great community for all of these great sports. And they've really been very influential in, helping build that reputation of the sport. And, it was such a supportive environment for me. They gave me the flexibility to work and still, play softball whenever I could. So it was really great. And I know it's going to be really hard not having that awesome hitting facility in the back there available for me, in between my shifts, like during my breaks and stuff, I would go hit, and before work or after work, it was really nice to have that. So I think the community is really going to feel that loss a little bit, but hopefully we'll be able to build up, another facility here that, or maybe somebody will be able to pick it up that will really, do some great things in the sport.
Yeah, and there are somewhat limited facilities in Edmonton, so when one closes, it is a really big deal. There are more facilities opening up, such as the Turf Training Center in recent years, and the Commonwealth Fieldhouse, which is huge and really a good facility to play ball in, as they can drop down this huge batting cage. Where are you looking to continue training? Obviously, you can't do anything right now besides training at home, but looking into the future, Home Run Sports is closed. Where will you look to go?
So mostly I'm sure I'll probably just stick to, my backyard or, the fields here or there. It's always kind of a little difficult being in Canada. The weather doesn't always work the way you'd like it to. But, I don't spend a whole lot of time at home. I only get a couple months for the summer vacation. So, usually the weather is good and I can get out and be on the field. But hopefully, I have gone to Commonwealth and worked there as well. And hopefully I'll just be able to stay in the gym and keep working.
For sure, Cassie. So thank you very much for coming on today. It really does mean a lot to us to be able to put something like this out there for people to watch, whether they were watching the whole thing with their eyes as the photos and videos have scrolled across the screen, or whether they just kept it on in the background while they're doing something else. We really do appreciate it. I do want to give you one last opportunity. Is there any other message you want to give out to anyone?
Yeah, of course. I'd really like to thank some of the great coaches I've had, specifically Brett Harvey. He coached me in Lloyd. Now he's currently coaching for St. Albert. There's also some other great programs. River City has been a really great program. Specifically, coaches like Rob Campbell has set up some really great camps, brought up a ton of American coaches that really helped me, develop as a player. So I'd like to thank him. Of course, our high school teachers were really supportive. Mr. Bambrick, Mr. McJanet, and Mr. Harasimiak, Mr. Zaharko, my track coaches, were really supportive. So I just like to, thank them. But other than that, I think that's it.
Yeah, and I mean, just to give you one last little prop and accolade here, you mentioned track. You still hold the city record in javelin, I believe, unless that's been broken very recently. So Cassie Matlock, definitely a very accomplished athlete. Once again, thank you so much for joining us today. You guys have been listening to this ICU virtual video roundtable. My name's Connor Toffan. And we'll look to have some more of these in the future, hopefully in the next couple of weeks. Almost knocked my headset off there. From myself, Wyatt Ziegler, as well as Grayson Knutson. I believe we're the three that are kind of putting these out. So keep looking up on the ICU video YouTube page for some more of these. And thank you so much for joining us, and stay healthy.